Hello, good evening, and welcome to the FB4 from the LFC Daytrippers. I'm your host, and we've got some new people on. Got some new people on with us tonight. We don't
Yeah,
have
it's. I don't even want to call this. This is like, do you know, Keith? Do you know this is how we feel, right? Me and you, we feel like Robbo and Trent here,
yeah,
right? And we've got like fucking the
Reese
worst centre
Williams and
backs.
Nat
Yeah,
Phillips come in
Nat
beside us.
Phillips. Yeah, beside
I
us.
thought you want to call me Simicast or something. Give me at least give me some credit.
Do you know what I mean? But it is look. The game's the game. We got to
It
go
is
on.
what it is. That's how professional we are on the Fatback 4. Even when we're down, man, we refuse to throw in the towel. And just for anyone that's interested, we're sick of Shawnee Lawson's carry on that he's emigrated to Carrick-on-Shannon for the last 6 months. So we've sent Gav out to rescue him, to bring him back. So if anyone's ever seen Rambo, we've sort of done that. We've sent Gav in a reconnaissance mission just to find Shawnee. And if you can get him out alive, happy days. So we'll report back soon on how that one's gone. But anyway, we're here tonight. So I'm your host, Keith. He's the main man, Grizz Can. And we're joined by Grizz's apprentice, Avy. How are you, Avy? Paying you $2.50 an hour and sending you for the Sambos.
Loving it. It's like as if I'm on an apprenticeship. So yeah, loving the experience and the learning curve. So thank you for having me on today.
That's always a pleasure. It's always a pleasure. We couldn't get anyone else. And we're also joined by the Daytrippers, the daddy of the Daytrippers, the man with the plan where it all began, Mr. Dream Killer himself, Mr. Phil Casey. Phil.
Yeah, I'm only here to see Grizz and Avy announce Mbappe. I just like to catch up with the lads every now and then. I only came on because that's the only reason I came on, because I heard the two boys of you get to talk transfers, make you up to stuff. Come on, let's go.
It's as good a reason as any. In fairness, it's as good a reason as any. But look, now we're delighted for the lads to jump on. It's always a good show on a Sunday night. It's always a busy one, and I'm sure the chat will be hopping. So look, get your comments in. We'll throw as many up as we can. And I'm not going to lie to you, lads, there's not too much to talk about on the Liverpool front. So if you want to throw anything in, I lied to Phil and told him he was coming on for a book review show tonight. So he's been absolutely stitched up here and has to talk about Liverpool. So he's not really happy. Didn't even know they were doing pre-season training, didn't you know, Phil?
No. Somebody said to me, "What do you think about the pre-season matches?" Like, what? I said,
so I knew this. I said, I noticed in the WhatsApp today, right? And that's why I put it in the main WhatsApp group. And I said, Phil's on the Fatback 4. And everyone just burst out laughing because, like, oh, well, brother, listen, it is what it is. The game's the game. And look, the beauty of Phil, right? And I'm going to open up here, right? The beauty of Phil is, and I'm going to say it to his face, right? We've had our little fallouts over the years and whatnot. But no joke, he's one of the main fuckers, right? And Keith and Avy won't know this, but when I was fairly new on Twitter, I used to religiously listen to the LFC Daytrippers from the days in the bunker. Not even a bunker, just a fucking, what was it? It was a little office or something, wasn't it, Phil? Like a half office.
A shed.
No, it wasn't even a shed. It was a quarter of an office.
It was a back office of a pub. It was like the back room of a pub.
Yeah. So I didn't have a
safes.
clue.
We robbed safes and everything in the place. There was car seats and gas cylinders and everything.
Oh mate. And I never knew none of them. I never knew what they looked like. So I only knew them from their names, because obviously it was all audio then, right?
Yeah.
And he was the hostess. And Rig, honestly, God, I fell in love with the Trippers from that day. So how long ago that would have been? That would have been about 8 years
Longer.
ago, 7, 8 years ago.
2013 was the first year of the Trippers.
Yeah.
We've lost loads of pods off the feed, which is really head wrecking. I think we lost close to 200 pods from the early days. I think everything up to about 2015 or so 2016 has been lost into the internet, which is a terrible shame, because there was some great stuff. Like at the start, we started out to be really serious and bring a new voice to LFC fans and represent the voice of overseas fans. That fell apart after about 3 shows. When we had, they used to, like back in the day, just for people who are just tuning in, but there was a lovely flow to LFC podcasts back then. On a Monday, there was the Anfield Rap came out on a Monday. We came out on a Tuesday. Somebody else came out on a Wednesday. I think the Redmen had a pod on Wednesday. Then there was a crowd called TBT. They had a pod on a Thursday, and then the Anfield Rap did something on a Friday. Right, that's the way it flowed.
Yeah,
and it meant
sense
that,
of order. Yeah.
Yeah, so and everyone got a fair share of what was going on. Then there was a couple of fortnightly and a couple of monthly pods that went on as well, which was great because everyone tuned into them and everyone helped each other out. And then certain places came along and just started filling up feeds with absolute spam, right? And trying to just make it a podcast about anything. So because of that now, everyone has to do pods all the time just to get everything that's out there. But that was back in the old school days, and there was some great stuff. We got some great interviews back then. Remember doing John Barnes, and we had people like that. John Barnes. I think we had Mark
John
Wright
Barnes
on
is
as well.
as good as it gets, Phil.
Rob Jones. We had Rob Jones as well. Remember, actually, I recorded the Rob Jones interview on New Year's Eve in an old office where I worked. Trev came in to the office that day so that we could dial in and have proper internet. Like this, we're not talking. This isn't 2001 or 2000. This is like 2013. And Rob Jones, an absolute gent. So
But you know what, Phil? It's funny you mentioned that. You know what I mean? People maybe don't realize that back then. It wasn't a saturated market for football podcasts, for Liverpool podcasts, and the Daytrippers really were at the fore of that. Now it's all changed. Now the format of how we do it has changed. It's no longer one show a week in a bunker. It's now, predominant. It's all on YouTube. But the Daytrippers have always had this sort of reputation of being messers a bit, but there's been some quality content there from the very start, and it's something, as Grizz touched on. I listened from back then as well, and it really was a great pod with some great characters on it down through the years. A lot of them are still involved and some of them not anymore. But, it's easy to think, they're all just a bunch of messers, a bunch of buzzers. But there really was some brilliant shows back then. And
still is Keith. This is the whole thing, the balance that we've hopefully gotten and continue to get is that you've got your messing about that happens on nearly all the shows, but you've got your serious stuff that goes on, and you've got your debate. And I think the fairest quote that I hear put to us a lot, and in the comments and even online, is the shout that it's like going to the pub and talking to my mates about the game, right? That's what you get. You don't get head nodding. There is agendas. Of course there's agendas. Everybody comes into a show with an opinion, right? And you can call it what it is, but we don't have forced agendas where everyone has to take the same opinion, or else they won't be allowed on the show. And that's where it goes on. Like I openly, I've openly got a thing against English people supposedly. So I'm anti-English, and I'm also anti-Naby Keita and many other things. But the whole piece is that by having different angles and different viewpoints, it more or less covers all the ground, because for as many people who will say, I don't like this person, there'll be somebody else on a show or on a different show that says, I love that person, I think he's brilliant.
That's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
Look, talking about messes and agendas, Keith's taken the comment off. Monkey Gaming Stuff, who's a regular watcher, but a regular commentator as well. He's probably sent about 4 tweets already, messages I should say, talking about Mbappe and haha Grizz ITK. Look, blame FSG. There you go. Look, Spunky Monkey Gaming and Stuff. That's your 5th message, and the show hasn't even started. So I'm not ducking away from it. That's why I highlighted it, not to try to avoid it, because that's what we do in the Trippers. We face up to it. When we're wrong, we're wrong.
Avi, can I just ask a question? I have a question because of all the shows you're on. Sorry, Grizz. I know.
I'm just going to tell him any more stupid comments. I'm going to block him. But yeah, sorry, carry on.
Go ahead.
I just want to know. Come here. Whose head are you hiding behind that jersey behind you? Like, is there a head in a jar, or what are you hiding in the background?
No, it's a medal collection, but I always put a jersey over it. You're in the medal collection. No, just because I like putting a jersey. I like switching up every show.
Have you not figured out to get a brush and just stick the brush up the jersey, or a coat hanger from the other side, and then you can have the medals on one side and the coat hanger on the other?
Oh, it's just one of those looks that I give on Thursday. I don't know what it was Thursday. What was Thursday's show? It was Friday's show. It was just a medal collection. Then I put a jersey over it.
Yeah. Now you need to get yourself a hanger, buddy. A hanger. That's
I need to get one of those green sheets, and like create my own little studio, like certain content creators do. So
Oh yeah.
I'll have a little studio. Once I'm in the new house, I'll have a proper little studio in the background. Yeah,
you can do all Gold Cup watch alongs you want. Then
that's if Gav's not giving me the chop beforehand. So yeah,
like, when you started talking, when you were talking about Gold Cup watch alongs, I was like, lads, that's in March. What the fuck are you talking about? Like, do you know what I mean?
Ups.
Yeah, giddy up the horses, and that goes on at like 4:00 down in Cheltenham. How can he be doing something in the middle of July about the Gold Cup? Like the COVID wasn't that bad. Go around there.
Avy wants to do Gold Cup watch along. So what did he say to you, Grizz? Who's in the final?
So he goes USA Mexico. No, he goes USA Mexico, and I said, oh, you know what? I'm going to struggle with the USA team. And he goes, oh yeah, I might. It's the reserves playing. So he wants to do
it's not the first team.
He wants to do a fucking USA Gold Cup watch along, 3 a.m. in the morning with the reserves American team. Get out of here.
If ever I needed a set of lads to just absolutely waffle about lads that nobody has a breeze about, you two will be top of the list. Like definitely.
Oh no, relax right there. Like, you know,
the football man.
Put some respect on my name. Like, yeah, him. Yeah, but come on, for fuck's sake. I'm a student.
You're always learning, please. Always learning. That's it. But look, it is good. You know, we've killed a nice 10 minutes with that. You know, trip down memory lane. But it's valid because, you know, we don't get Phil on many shows now. You do the forum the odd time, but not all the time. And it's good to have you on.
I take a night off for the first time in 6 months last week, and I'm not on shows regularly.
Well, there you go. Well, Phil, you know, what have you done for me lately? Do you know what I mean? Nobody remembers what you done 2 weeks ago. It's what
Sorry, but I've gone back goalkeeping coaching for a senior team, so it's like I'm sort of exercising the stuff I talk about.
Have you now? That's interesting. I'll make a mental note of that. I'll talk
all right, so it's like so I'm not just talking shite when in the group as usual, but yeah, I've gone back goalkeeping coaching on a Tuesday, and as most of you know, I have another baby coming along in the next 5 weeks as well. So that's
nice.
And I've got 3 kids as it is, so it's like it's pretty busy when you.
Phil is in a shootout with Boris Johnson here to see who can swear the most children in the quickest time span. Well, if Boris is watching, no disrespect.
It's the next battle of the Boyne. Boris on one side and me on the other side with all our kids to see who wins.
Sperm. Battle of the sperms. But anyway. It's great to have you here, Phil. Always a pleasure to have you on, have your knowledge on. And the reason we wanted to get you on was Liverpool's pre-season is going at a nice pace, and who better to discuss? Oh, before we move on,
yeah,
got to see a comment in here. Oh no, I didn't see that. I'll get that in a minute. We also have Leslie Ann here in here, Sienna's mammy here. Just quick thanks for all the support. We'll be talking about Sienna at the end of the show as always, but it's great to have Leslie in there saying a hello. So everyone say hello. Give her a wave. Hello. But we've got a super chat from Ramez. Thanks very much, Ramez, throwing it in. I haven't read it yet, so we might have to take that thank you back if it's one I don't like. You think FSG's Moneyball approach to transfers has reached a point where it's not as viable anymore now that everyone knows of our success with it? Okay, it's a good question. Grizz, I'll start with you. The Moneyball approach, what do you think? Do you think it's being sussed out, or do you think maybe we're panicking a bit?
I don't think we have a Moneyball approach anymore. That would be my answer. I think there's aspects of Moneyball that we use, and I think that's no different from a lot of clubs around the world. Who doesn't use the Moneyball approach, or want to, or would love to, if you think about it, and if you really deeply think about it? I think we've slightly evolved, slightly tweaked the Moneyball approach, and I think it's just a phrase or a term that was used a couple of years ago, and I don't think it's viable to use it for FSG now. Whether we've reached a point where we can't have success anymore, I don't think any of us really know that. The only way we can tell that is by sitting back, relaxing, and watching our team play football. And that's why, as fans, well, I don't know, you guys might have more powerful influences, but as fans, that's what we can do. Sit back, watch, enjoy what we got Klopp and this team, because we literally can't do anything about anything else. We can give our opinions on whatever platforms we have, but apart from that, the only way we can see if we've been, knows of our success and we've been caught out and it's not sustainable anymore, literally only time will tell.
Very true. Phil, as an avid fan of American sports, what's your take on baseball?
Baseball I struggle with. I struggle with baseball. Baseball is the type of sport that you want to be in the stadium for. So because you can just drink your way through 9 innings, right?
Slog.
And have no idea what time it is when you got there, and it just feels like it was about half an hour ago when you got home, and it was a great day. Got out. But if we talk about what Grizz just said, the transfers, I find the slog bit that you just talked about, that's where transfer windows have gone. In reality, what we're dealing with here is how many big clubs have signed players. Okay, straight up, we signed Canate. We signed him so early, people forget this. If we hadn't announced the Canate signing until the start of the pre-season when the lads were heading off to Austria, that would be all fresh and we'd be all buzzing and everything like that. But the fact is, we announced Canate before the European Championships happened. That's how long ago it was. And we spent 30 odd million on Canate back then. All right, so 36 million, whatever it was that was there. So what's happened since then? United have signed Sancho, who they were linked with for donkeys last summer, right? They paid a massive amount of money for him. He has potential, but an awful lot of good players have gone to United and died as players, as stars. They've ruined Martial. Martial should have been one of the world's best, but he's ended up being just a very average player. And look at what's happened to Pogba. Pogba was riding a wave when he was at Juventus before he went to United, and he's never going to reach his true potential because he's been allowed to do whatever the hell he wants since he's gone to United. He doesn't have a strong manager. So I look at this and look at City. Who's City signed, lads?
Linked.
No, Keith. I'm asking who
I think a couple of Brazilians have sent. A couple of Brazilians have sent out on to.
Hold on. A couple of Moneyball signings. What they've done.
Yeah.
A couple of young Brazilians.
Yeah. And did they sign Scott Carson or some other goalkeeper or some shit like that?
He might have renewed his contract because he was there. Because he's been there for a while, isn't he?
So they've signed nobody, right? So then I go, okay, so who've Chelsea signed, right? So this is it. Okay, so we've signed one. United have signed two. City have signed none. Chelsea have signed none. That's the top four. This is what we're talking about. This is who are likely to challenge for the league. Yeah. Leicester have signed one in a player that we were interested in, Patson Daka. Did they sign?
Two. They signed Sumari as well.
Yeah, Sumari.
Yeah. Okay. So they've signed two. That's the top five. So out of the top five, there's been 5 signings in total. 5 first team signings in total from the top 5. Liverpool fans, in the majority, I'd say the older fans are sitting back going, look at those Muppets moaning about us not signing players. And the younger fans are running around with their hair on fire saying the world's going to blow up. Okay? In reality, we have moved slightly back towards the idea of seeing the value come true in the market, right? What they learned with the Thiago signing and the other signings is because we've moved from trying to build towards a squad that can compete to having a squad that competes and only needs tweaking, it means that the signings you want to make aren't mass signings. It's 1 or 2 signings that make a big difference in terms of what's there, right? So from my point of view, I'm looking at it saying, and I'm not going to talk about it later, but you've got the squad issue in terms of that if you want to sign a player, you're going to have to remove a player from the squad, right? And as soon as you do that, you reduce the value of the players that you're trying to get out the squad. For the last 4 years, we've been trying to get rid of Origi. We've been trying to get rid of whoever else, right? Shaqiri wants to go. If we go out and sign a non-homegrown player they talk about now, immediately you're going to devalue the Shaqiri's fee that we could get in by 2 or 3 million, right? Now, I said earlier on, if a bid comes in for Origi that's 9 million, I'm taking it. I'm not worrying about getting 12 million or 13 million or 14 million. I'm taking it at this stage, right? Because then you start to create the gaps that you can then fill. But I think one of the issues as well, somebody else was saying, is that we are short of homegrown players. I'm not worried about that because we can promote some of the 21s as registered as squad 25s. The problem you have is this idea that we can't sign non-homegrown. We can, but we're just going to devalue the players that we're trying to get out the door then. And that's the real issue for us. So we just need to take a deep breath and realise that the guy, Michael Edwards, Fallows Hunter, the lads that are in the background that have done this spectacularly well for the last 3 to 4 years, with Klopp, with Kraviertz, with the guys there that are working as a whole team in this and have rarely got a signing wrong. They know what they're doing, right? There isn't a single person on a podcast in the world, in Liverpool land, right, that have a better handle on what's needed for that club at this moment in time than the guys that are there. We can all have opinions about who we should sign, but to start throwing your toys out of the pram because we haven't signed anyone, look around and see what's going on, because we've more or less done the exact same as the guys that we believe that our potential rivals are trying to be rivals to us.
And Phil, you're spot on there. And something you mentioned, you know, Manchester United, Chelsea, all these teams, they have to spend big to get up to the chasing pack right now. I know we fell away last year, finished third, 5 points behind Manchester United, but you know, we know what this squad can do and we know what Klopp can do. I think, you know, it's not unrealistic to expect us to be up challenging Man City again this season. And Manchester United have to buy Rafael Varane and have to buy Jadon Sancho to put themselves in that mix. I'm not worried about what other clubs do. I don't give two shiny shites if Man City sign Harry Kane and Jack Grealish. Could not care less. We played them twice in the season.
Mm-hmm.
They steamroll teams as it is. We have to worry about what we do and, you know, forget about them. Do you know what I mean? Like it's no people going on about, oh, if Chelsea sign Erling Haaland, give them the league. Why? Do you know what I mean? If Liverpool get all their players back fit and fired and add a couple of smart additions, that's all we need. And that's what people lose focus about. But Avy, the Moneyball stuff, Phil touched on something interesting there. That it's not, you know, it's Michael Edwards, it's Fallows, it's all these guys. But it's also the likes of Pep Linders, because if we look at the Diogo Jota deal, Pep Linders was a driving force behind that because he had him at, I think, Porto's youth team a few years ago, and he knew his qualities. Vitor Matos now as well is in there coming from Porto, and that's why you're seeing all these links with Portuguese players. So I know the transfer committee was a bleeding persona non grata award a few years ago, but it really is a committee. This isn't down to, you know, FSG. John Henry isn't given a list of players to Michael Edwards to go out and sign. You know, people think FSG are doing this, FSG are doing that. There's a committee of lads that are looking at players. We scouts all over the world, and they're getting the right players. And Phil said it there. If we bring in someone now, people hate hearing about the non-homegrown rule, but it's a rule, and we've instantly devalue our players. Can you see the Shaqiri, for instance, being next out the door, and then we get movement in?
Yeah, so I think January was the first time where our board, where the committee sort of panicked in terms of Ben Davis and Kabak. If it was up to us, and if Leipzig were willing to negotiate on the table, we would have got Konate in way before. So I know Phil says that we got Konate in very early, sort of to appease the fans and whatnot, but we should have got Konate was the issue that it should have been resolved in January, but it was impossible. And we've got these new wave of fans on Twitter who are just frustrated straight away when they see Sancho going to United, and they, you know, we see all these news or Twitter spaces and podcasts just like absolutely lashing FSG. We plan methodically, you know, we plan in advance. During COVID, we haven't had that chance, because if you believe what the rumors are, and you know, we've heard what Klopp has said and the team around him, that we plan, you know, within a year. So like Taki was already monitored a year before we actually went and got him in that January of 2020. You know, players like Jota, I'm sure were earmarked way before because of his characteristics and, you know, his pressing and how he impresses us when he was at Wolves. There's other players like Thiago. Thiago's a player I think was a wonderful opportunity, and I think Klopp wanted to work with him, and he wanted a fresh challenge, and it all came together. You know, Tsimikas, you know, I'm sure we looked at him way before the Europa League run that he had with Olympiacos, and he was impressing everyone. So I think what it is patience, but unfortunately, there's a wave of fans who don't have that. You know, I'm sure we will do business. And yeah, we allude back to the fact that Shaq, Origi, we do need some players out. That's just what it is. You know, the pro quota rule and the pro quota rule and the homegrown rule. We need bodies in and out. You know, we might need to make an English signing, and it won't please fans what I'm trying to say, but it might be Jared Bowen that comes in, because we've got to meet British, you know, we've got to meet that British homegrown rule. And then on the other side, we've got to either loan out Taki or maybe loan out Origi and Shaq. And right now, it might just be that we're not getting offers. People are saying that Lazio have offered this. We might not have got an offer from Lazio. Or if we did, it might not be, you know, it might not be pleasing to the eye. It might be like 5 million up front with 5 million over the course of 3 years. Like what we do. It might be a case that other teams have seen the way we negotiate and are copying that same tact when they're negotiating with us or with other teams. So it's a patience game. You know, there's less than 2 weeks to go for the Norwich game. I'm sure we'll get another signing or two in, but that's what it is. We just need to release a few more bodies before we start, you know, going in big for the incomings. Chris, he's on mute. You're on mute, mate.
I thought that was the best point he's made.
Don't panic. The best comment of that. Go on. You probably want to read this out, or
no. If you got something else to say before,
yeah, I was gonna ask you and Phil especially, and Avy can pipe in as well. But so I want to give you a thought of from the other side, but not from the extreme other side, but from the middle other side, if you know what I mean. So there's top Reds, there's bottom Reds, and I'm like in the middle, right? So I'm going to ask you. So we keep talking about this homegrown rule, and look, it's fact, and we have to do it. Why are we in this position in the first place? And who's to blame? And is there a blame? Because the question I pose to myself and other people like you, learned people like you, is you're absolutely spot on. That's the rules. That's the laws. Of course, we have to have a certain amount of homegrown players, blah, 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 blah. But why are we in this position now? So who's messed up somewhere along the last 3 or 4 windows and not got rid of the shit?
Well,
I'll take away the shit. Sorry, I beg your pardon. Players that have been no use to us for the last 3 or 4 windows. There is someone to blame, isn't there? It's not all rosy, and it's not all brilliant Michael Edwards and brilliant recruitment and brilliant planning like you guys have made out. I agree with a lot of what you said, but there has been mess ups, right?
Yeah,
Grizz, just a quick one on this, Keith. So I want to pipe up because you said this before, but COVID's to blame mainly, Grizz.
That's one window. That's one summer.
But it was a huge summer because it was a huge window because last summer we were told and we were led to believe that we were going big. There was for certain journalists who were told by the club that before COVID even hit, that next summer was the planning summer. The likes of Timo Werner that we know that, you know.
But I'm talking about the outgoings. I'm not talking about the big income. I'm not talking about the big summer plan for incomings. I'm asking you guys, why are we in this position?
I think Jurgen Klopp is to blame. Personally, I think Jurgen Klopp is to blame for the state we're in now with the homegrown quota. And the reason I say that is I'm a big Jurgen Klopp fan. You won't find anyone. People will blame John Henry and Linda Pizzuti on this. Nothing to do with them. If we have an issue with homegrown quota, non-homegrown, why are we giving Adrian a new contract? That's what everyone asks. Why is Adrian getting a contract when we have an issue with homegrown quota? Because Jurgen Klopp clearly values what Adrian brings to the squad as a backup goalkeeper and maybe as a presence around the squad more than what fans do, more than what people on Twitter appreciate and realise. So Klopp has got a squad now. You know, they've got the easy one. The easy one to say is you get rid of Adrian and you bring in, I've seen Bettinelli, Marcus Bettinelli getting a mention because he's getting linked with, who's he going to, Chelsea or something like that. Carson is going to re-sign with City. Tom Heaton has gone to Man United. You know, so all these guys are bringing in the third goalkeeper as English homegrown players. But I say this all the time. I get lashed out of it in the comments, not on the live chat, but in the comments. It's not FIFA. It's not Football Manager. Do you know what I mean? You have to meet this quota. And Jurgen Klopp values, the one thing we know about Klopp, he values personality a lot more than the average fan does. So the reason we're in this predicament, Edwards knows what the squad is made up of. Jurgen Klopp knows what the squad is made up of. Avy made a good point. The COVID has thrown it because we could have rinsed teams as we were rinsing them before COVID struck. Bournemouth, you know, there was a lot of teams that we could have really taken to the cleaners.
Yeah, I agree. They had no money.
The fact that Klopp has given, as I recommended, that Adrian gets a new contract, that shows that, right, we know we've an issue, but they obviously have an idea around it. Do you know what I mean? Now, I don't know if Phil agrees or disagrees. What do you think, Phil?
I blame Eddie Howe. Had he not got Bournemouth relegated, we would have been able to sort this whole mess out. We wouldn't have any problems.
But that's just one player, guys. But guys, I mean,
he would have taken Karius, Origi. No, but honestly, I don't think
that's
there's
just
any
one player, though, Phil. I don't want you to target on just Adrian because I know your opinion.
Chris,
we know our opinion on Adrian. How about Shaqiri? How about Origi?
Hang on. You asked the question, right? But the answer to this question is that there is no blame. The same rule existed this time last year in the squad. Okay? The difference is we want to bring in players this summer Whereas last year, we didn't have an issue with the homegrown quota or the non-homegrown quota because the players we were bringing in were replacing the players that we had going out the door. So clearly the club have decided, or Edwards has decided, right, this is the clear out year. They're looking at what's happening now is the contracts on the players that they want to get rid of are winding down. You look at Shaqiri. If we don't sell Shaqiri this year, he's not going to go because he'll be into the last year of his contract and he's going to wait till he's a free agent. Origi is the exact same thing. You look at Minamino. If any of our big players, say Mane or Salah, say they can't agree contract extensions, I say it's more likely that Mane won't get a contract extension, that they'll let him play out his deal because they're not going to be able to sign every single one of our big players, and they're not going to want to sign every single one of our big players, right? And I think the reality is there is no issue. This is about English writers filling up column inches when they haven't been embedded in the camp in Austria where they normally would be. It's about the fact that there is limited knowledge coming out of the club, and I think it was Kieran Palmer who writes for the Sunday, Kevin Palmer who writes for the Sunday Word, who more or less put it out. Since the Virgil van Dijk transfer, nothing comes out of the club. The writers only hear about it after it's happened, or it comes from the players' side of the deal, and we've known that the club has walked away from deals when the agents have started talking to the press or leaking things into the press that they want to keep under wraps because the club doesn't want anything getting out there. So I come back to it and say, we are just in this, there's always going to be year zeros. Because I love American sport, particularly American football, there's always year zeros where the cap issue hits in the NFL reality, and they have to get rid of some of their big stars and to go again, right? We're in the equivalent in the football form in that our contracts have got to a point that if we want to get rid of players and get value for them, we have to sell them this summer. If we don't, we either let them go for next to nothing, which clearly the club don't want to do, or they're just going to sit out their contracts, wait them out and go on free transfers at the end. And in this instance, this is the last time that the club has any real power on what happens with these players, because if we let it go after this summer, then they hold all the power. And I agree with
everything you said, but my point is, this is why we're in that spot now. Everything what you've said is spot on. But what I'm saying is, if you're saying that we're so meticulously planned and we're so brilliantly, we have so much forethought in terms of contracts and extensions and everything, we are, whether we like it, whether we don't, or whether we agree with it, whether we don't, we are in a bit of spot of bother with contracts and the homegrown. And, you know, it's not noises coming out from the club, forget it, or the journalists, sorry, and Liverpool haven't said anything.
Yeah.
But the fact that on a piece of paper, we can see a lot of our players have got 2 years left. And as you're saying, a lot of them need to be sold. So I don't think it's as brilliantly as some of you have indicated that it's nothing to worry about. I think there is issues to worry about. But what I will 100% agree with is it's in the best people's hands. And they know far more than us.
Yeah. It's where Moneyball falls down, because if Moneyball was actually a thing, we'd be buying players, increasing their value and selling them. Liverpool are not selling them. They're letting contracts run. We saw it with Gene, we saw it with Emre Can. They don't seem to have an issue with letting the contracts run down and moving them on. And I agree with Phil. There's not going to be contracts for everybody. And yet we tied Trent down to a new deal when he wasn't one that was in desperate need of a deal. So we will have that. Before we move on, there was who took that super chat off?
I haven't done it. I haven't touched it.
Marcus, it's gone. It's too far back. It was just bigging up Phil. He was just bigging up Phil for his chat there a minute ago and said he's going to pass it on to his mate. So well done, Phil. It's all positive news for you.
We've got another super chat.
We've got a couple here. Yeah, hold on.
Phil Tree, who turned up tonight, is doing well. So
Phil Tree is smashing it. In fairness, smashing it out of the park and got a bit of American football chat in. So I think he'd be happy. Now another super chat in from Cav Oldham. You can try signing English players, but if the better boy is foreign, so be it. Signings have brought us success, and that's what we want. And look, we all know the tax that goes on English players is just extortionate. I mean, if we look at the Manchester City thing, that they're looking to sign Jack Grealish for 100 million and sign Harry Kane for 160 million. They're good players. They're good
Keith,
players.
You just got to look at Ben White as well. Ben White to Arsenal, 50 million is a huge amount of money. I don't care whether people think he's a great potential. That 50 million for him, right?
And that's because he's an England international.
And they're going to think that he's the answer. But Keith, he's got 1 or 2 caps for England.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. He's in that Euro squad. If you look at, I saw someone recently linking us with, why don't we buy Calvin Phillips? Calvin Phillips will cost you about 70 million.
Oh, easy.
Do you know what I mean? He's 24 or
Leeds
whatever.
Leeds got rich owners too. Yeah,
they're not going to want to sell him. He's English. You could try to buy a player like that. It just costs a fortune. But if you look at Grealish for 100 million, he's an excellent player. I don't think he's worth anywhere near that. I think at most in an inflated market, he's a 60 million pound player maybe. Harry Kane at 160 at 28 years old. I don't know. I think they could sign better players for half that. Personally, for the style of play, they steamroll teams. I don't know what Harry Kane is going to make a huge difference. Might get them over the hump in the Champions League, but Harry Kane hasn't got a history of winning, so I don't know. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see what way they go with the signings. But another super.
Grizz, you make a good point. I think I hate using that word Moneyball, but that system that we have where we, buy players and sell them high, or, we buy them young and whatnot, it has flaws in it, especially with the contractual situations. Like with 2 years to run, there's an awful lot of players that, are on their sort of 2 years. You've got Alisson, Fabinho, Henderson, Van Dijk. I do agree
Salah,
that, look.
Mane, Firmino, Fabinho.
There you go.
Oxlade, Chamberlain, Naby Keita, Shaqiri.
And there's some that you won't be able to give all contracts to. I totally understand that. That's where, we can sort of maybe change that sort of, because giving out contracts all at once, that will hurt your purse strings. Unfortunately, that's the way it is. It will hurt the financial side of it in investing in new players. We know that, right? But the problem is now that we face is you've got 7-8 players and you're negotiating sort of all at once, and so we've announced Trent. Now you're going to get players and players agents who are going to sort of throw their sort of toys out of the pram, who are going to say, wait a minute, Trent's been announced. What about our turn? It's like Henderson. I truly believe Henderson is not bothered by it, but his agent, right? His agent, whoever it may be, might be saying, wait a minute, all season, all summer we've heard Fabinho's name, Van Dijk's name, we've seen Salah's name. Where's your name? You're the captain of Liverpool Football Club. Why hasn't your name been mentioned? So they put it out into this sort of stratosphere that, oh yeah, you know what? Let this little leak. I'm sure it was a leak from, Henderson's people or whatnot. I'm not trying to play devil's advocate here, but I'm just saying it might have been from Henderson's people that, you know what? You deserve your contract. You deserve a renewal. It can make it an ugly situation. We've seen it with Gini. There were two arguments there. There was
Can I just on Keith's point? I think it answers itself, Keith. The reason why there's only 2 years left on the majority of those contracts is most of them were signed within 2 windows.
Yeah.
Like the last time we talked about going big, when we talk about going big, we signed Fabinho, Alisson, Keita comes in. They all come in Shaq. They all come in the same window.
Yeah.
Before that, it's Salah, it's Virgil that comes in the January. It's these lads all come in within 2 windows of each other, right? And their contracts are going to run out at the same time. Now, the bit that you might say is, do you renew them slightly earlier in the contract cycle that you don't get to this?
Or sell them earlier. This is my point. I think this is my point. My point I was trying to make is, you're absolutely spot on. I was going to come to that because we've been not far too active. We've been very active in 1 or 2 windows, and then absolutely nothing for 4 windows. And then we bought in 3 last window, right? There's been inconsistencies in the planning, in my opinion, that has led to us now being in this position. And it's not ideal, but it's far from disastrous. That's my point. And there has been mistakes. So we have to try to look at both sides of it. It hasn't been brilliant planning always.
It's super chatting again. Gagandeep Puar. I probably made a
super duper chat.
Good stuff.
That's a super duper chat.
That is a super duper chat. Thank you very much, Gagandeep. Said it before, issue with our model is too rigid. Whenever a world-class talent is available, LFC name gets ruled out due to high transfer fees and wages. Once in a while, fans like myself would like us to be flexible and sign the marquee name. Who rules us out?
I don't get that. Like, we signed Virgil van Dijk.
Yeah.
We signed Alisson.
Yeah.
And do you know what they're going to come? Do you know what we come back and say? Well, that was back then. That's what we needed them.
Yeah.
The next time we need to sign a world class player will be when we go to replace Mane, Firmino, or Salah.
Yeah.
I want to come in here very quickly.
Before you do, we done it with Fabinho as well.
Yeah. Exactly that same like Phil's question, or sorry, your question. You asked who rules us out. The club doesn't rule it out. When a club sees a player that they think can make a major impact, a la the players that you guys have just named, we try to sign them. So we had Monkey, whatever his name was, nuts.
Spunky Monkey Gaming stuff.
Yeah. Trying to mimic me about Mbappe, but we 100% tried. Now, if Mbappe doesn't want to come to us and he's adamant that he wants to go to Madrid, that's not FSG's fault. We can offer him the world, and we have offered him the world, but he won't come to us. For example, let me just throw a name out there, and I know, and I've put it out in the thing today, this week in the Twitter sphere, that we want Chiesa, an absolute game changer. We're prepared to pay 70, 80 mil for him, but he won't come to us. No, Phil, the point being is he won't leave Juventus.
Thank fuck. Never sign an Italian. Never sign Italian players in England.
My point is, with regards to his tweet, message, we know when there's a game changer, and we do try to go it. Yes, there are absolutely limitations, and in every fucking business or world-class business that is successful, there should be limitations. And so I don't believe in this marquee signing. I 100% believe in the right signing, and we should be up there for every right signing. Marquee signing is just it's just FIFA, as you could like to call it, Keith.
Yeah, people get angry. I've seen a few comments in there that get annoyed with me when I talk about FIFA. I don't care. You have to have a semblance of reality when dealing with it. People have seen comments again going back to, about Phil's point when we signed Van Dijk and all. I was out with the Coutinho money. That's because we're a well-run club. You know what I mean? That's because we sell players for big fees, and we reinvested it sensibly. I've no issue with that. I don't know why anyone would have a problem with what money comes in. That was the Coutinho money, or that was the Harry Wilson money. Couldn't give a shit where the money comes from. The club are bringing it in and they're spending it, and they've spent it well and spent it wisely. But it sort of does move us to another player. But thanks very much for the chat there, Gagandeep. It moves us on. It moves us on to the news that Ozan Kabak is possibly available. Now, I'll just ask you, does anybody want to sign Ozan Kabak for Liverpool? Would anyone take Ozan Kabak for Liverpool now, knowing the situation with the way the squad is made up? Phil, would you take Ozan Kabak on a free transfer?
I don't even know who you're talking about.
That's all right then.
Right. Honestly.
Do you remember that fellow who helped us out? You got to jog his memory, Keith.
Ozan Kabak plays with Lublin on the back.
The one who joined us in January.
Oh yeah, that's.
I try to miss.
Now that you sing the song, that makes a big difference.
Yeah. It was a game changer.
So Ozan Kabak, play centre back.
Would you sign him on a free? No. Why would I sign him on a free? We've got VVD, we've got Gomez, we've got Matip, we've got Kanate, we've got Phillips, we've got Williams, we've got Fabinho who can step in, and we've Brian Davis as well. Right, so come on, why would you need that? Makes no sense. We've just talked about making space for players that we need, right?
Yeah.
We've a massive gap in our midfield that we need to fill. People are worried about forwards and stuff. We've a massive gap in our mid. The main ability was Genie's availability, right? And the main disability we have now in the squad is the lack of availability of all the lads that are left. The most robust midfielder we have is James Milner. He's older than me, right? So it's so come on, I don't care about Kabak. If he has a brother that can play centre mid and he's decent, we'll take him rather instead. Let's be realistic here. Kabak is a good kid on the potential to be a decent player, right? And I thought when he was linked with going to Leicester, I thought that was a really, really good signing, right? Yeah. Because I thought that's the type of place he could go and do really well. And if he does, he'll get a move to another move to a bigger club. And if it doesn't, he'll still get to go back and play for a team in Germany and still have a decent career in terms of what he's doing. And that to me that made loads of sense. But we're talking about somebody that can either replace, step in, or play with Virgil van Dijk, right? And that's why we've gone and spent big money on Kanate. Once we sign Kanate, we're not signing another centre-back. Yeah. Park that. There's no point talking about centre-backs. Let's talk about what we really need to talk about, which is, and we can wind in our pre-season and what it's looked like and everything. But the centre mid at the moment has my biggest single question mark on it, because we've undoubtedly got 4 that we can consider our first choice centre mids. Okay, it's Henderson, Thiago, Fabinho, and Keita. They're the 4 centre mids that are our first choice centre mids that will be rotated. The problem is Henderson, Keita, and Well, I won't go with Thiago because traditionally he's had 2 big injuries in his career. So if you accept that he's over his big injury with ourselves, he'll be fine, right? So you've got Henderson and Keita who have massive availability issues, and I'm a fan of Henderson, and I'm not a fan of Keita, as you know. I don't know. I think this is worth discussing, Chris, because I think this is what leads into the discussion around the preseason friendlies. Like Ox has the same issues that we're talking about, Keita and Henderson, right? But that to me is, I keep coming back to it. When I go to fit them into the midfield, what way do I want them to fit into that midfield? Because if I'm looking at Keita, I'm not playing him when Thiago is playing, because that's a disaster midfield. We saw what that it has. It's just a disaster, right? So Keita can really only fit in when you've got Fabinho and Henderson in that midfield, in my opinion, in the Premier League. And Thiago can only fit in when you've got Henderson and Fabinho in that midfield, right? So, because after that, you start to lose that energy, that piece that we rely on to get ourselves up and down the park. And you could potentially put one of the younger guys in with Thiago and Fabinho, because both of them can pull strings and do whatever you want. But I really worry about Henderson's robustness and availability over the next 24 months, because he is picking up more and more niggles. He's over the age of 30. And this is no doubt in what the guy has brought to the club and what he's done for a club. And I'm a huge fan of what he's done over his time that he's been at the club. But I don't think he's going to be able to put in a 40 or 45 game season. And for that reason, we need that other player. The Saul sign made sense because, again, he doesn't pick up many injuries, and he's the shuttler. I hate saying it. He's the Joe Allen plus, and that's what Gini Wijnaldum was. He was a Joe Allen plus. It's the same idea as a midfielder, is that he can protect the ball and protect the fact that you keep the ball within your midfield structure and allows you to move the balls around and all that type of stuff. Okay. Yeah. And that's what we need. We've got dynamism in Fabinho from where he plays behind the defense. We've got the dynamism in Thiago. If you need to change things up in front of them, you've got Curtis Jones, you have Keita, you have even Harvey Elliott. And I want, hopefully we can talk, but I think of all the players in preseason so far, and I hate talking about preseason because it's all rubbish, but Harvey Elliott, I was thought to myself, right, he's starting to look like a player. And that's genuinely it is. And that's my biggest question. When we talk about transfers, that's the only thing I want to deal with, is how do we address this midfield? Because that's our engine room. There's no point sorting out what's going on behind them if all of a sudden you've got the same issues then appearing in the centre midfield.
I guess we'll let Avy give his opinion while me
before
and Keith try to find...
Before we do, hold on. Abubakar Ali just threw in a super chat there. Prayers up for Sienna. Thank you very much. We appreciate that. Sienna's mom was in the chat earlier.
I'm trying to find the other one, Keith.
Talking about, what was your one?
There was another.
Yeah, but was it? No, there was another one as well we missed. But go on. There you go.
Again, gagging deep again. We always sell to boy. Other clubs do differences. They only do this for specific transfers. It's their model. It's what I was referring to about being flexible with the model. Everyone sells to boy. Man City are going to raise 100 million by getting rid of players this year, and that's what will go towards the
Chelsea are brilliant at it.
Chelsea are the best in the world at it. Best in the world at it. I mean, we're great at it, but Chelsea buy these players in. They've about 63 players out on loan, and they make big money back on them. And they're excellently run. As much as
75 players out, 76 players in, something like that. Yeah. So, we're talking, it's huge numbers that go. And they've had a transfer ban. Think about it like that.
Yeah. You know, the work, and, you know, they've sold big players. They sold Eden Hazard for a fortune. They reinvest the money. Everyone sells the boy. It's just that it's as Gagneep says, it's their model, and you know, it is what it is. We just have to accept it and deal with it. But yeah, sorry, Grizz, before I jumped in there, midfielders, was it Avy? We were going to go to Avy there.
I was going to say, let Avy have his say while I try to find the
super chat. With the Kabak stuff, look, the player's agent was told back in March, April, and we've had this discussion many times, to look for other clubs and don't sort of float him out to other clubs, because Liverpool, he believed, and his client believed, that Liverpool were going to go and spend the money on him and make it permanent. Now that's not happened, and I feel for the player, because he can do a job at any other sort of Premiership, team, like the likes of Leicester City or a Palace, or even an Arsenal. I think he is good enough, and he's 21 years old. Would I sign him on a free transfer? Yeah, I probably would. Sign him on a free transfer and then send him out on loan, because you'll make that value on him. Say next summer, if we do decide to sell him, you'll get 15-20 million for him. So it makes it would be an FSG thing to do. It would probably rile a few fans up, to be honest, signing him on a free and sending him out on loan. It would rile people up. It would rile people up, but from a business opportunity, of course, why wouldn't you do it? And I look, if it is true that Schalke have told him not to bother coming back, and to find a club, that's fine. And if it is a free transfer, then you do feel that there will be a whole host of clubs all around Europe ready to stamp him up.
I can't imagine he'd be jumping at a deal from us now that we're just looking to ship him out and sell him on. So I'd say we'd be at the back of that queue, unfortunately.
Yeah, and in terms of midfield, and I think Phil said that Naby would be quite a part of that sort of quartet that he mentions. I think Curtis is ahead of Naby in terms of availability. Like, Naby breaks down, you feel that Klopp will be like, no, I can't trust him coming into the season. That's why it's a risk even having him in the squad. Like, if we got any kind of offer over 25, 30 million for Naby, we would have taken him. But obviously there won't be any clubs, because they know of his injury record. It comes back to Shaq as well, Grizz. You mentioned why we couldn't sell Shaq in previous seasons. He had injuries. His calves, his hamstrings, he had so many injuries. His games to ratio return, it's embarrassing. And
but our brilliant analytical medical forethinking everything bought him.
Yep. And for 12 million pounds. But we still believe that we'll probably recoup that too, right? He's 28, 29. We'll probably still recoup 12 to 8 million. So nothing's actually lost. But in terms of midfield, I think we'll get a big season out of Curtis Jones this season. Last season, he was in the light. He was out of the limelight because it was Foden last season. The James Maddison early on. Mason Mounts. Saka, even little bits of Emil Smith-Rowe. I think it's been brilliant what Klopp's done with Curtis. He's made him a more sort of disciplined all-round player. He's a player that started off as a 10 under Gerrard in the under-18s, and now he's probably molded him into an all-round action midfield player. I think we're going to get a big season out of Curtis Jones. I think this is the season for me where I think he will step up and show people like, look, you know what, I'm the next big thing coming out of England. Forget, the Mounts and whatnot behind me, or Foden's. So, yeah, now I'm big on Curtis Jones.
Grizz, Avy makes a decent point there. I really like Curtis Jones as well. But, as Phil points out, if we look at, I don't disagree with Phil, by the way, Fabinho, Henderson, Thiago, and the promise of Naby Keita. Then you've James Milner, 35, and you've got Curtis Jones. We do need, and if you throw Harvey Elliott in there as a midfield option, and you could put Bladen, Minamino, and Shaqiri, and all these guys you can put in. Oxlade-Chamberlain seems to be a forward option now. Do you think we do business in the midfield, Grizz? Who are we? Everyone's panicking, but there has to be business done in this midfield in this summer. And what do you think it looks like?
Yeah, so look, first and foremost, if Curtis Jones is and this is going to sound anti-Curtis Jones, I don't give a fuck. I'm still going to say it because it's my opinion. If we're going into this season hoping and expecting Curtis Jones to be the shining light and the forefront of our central midfield and our breakout player, then we will have failed, in my opinion, in the transfer market, and I won't be confident. Curtis Jones is a wonderful young player. He's growing. He's developing his maturity on the pitch. Still needs to be improved, but he's getting there. 21, is he, Avy?
20. He's 20, I believe. I think he's 21 in January.
Oh, wow. So 20 years old. Liverpool Football Club, despite how much we think we love our youngsters and, it's amazing to see a local kid come through, I don't want him to be a starter in our team every week. That's just my opinion. We know Fabinho, Henderson, Thiago is the likelihood to be the starting midfield. After that, we have a crock in Naby, a crock in Ox, and an old man in Milner.
Who had his injuries last season too, Grizz?
Yeah, absolutely. So I 100% agree with anyone that says midfield is the priority in midfield this summer. And I genuinely think we will. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind that we won't recruit in central midfield. So we do, and again, I'm going to agree with Phil. We need, what did you call it? A shuttler.
Shuttler, yeah.
Is that how you described it?
Yep.
An energetic, a durable shuttler. So we have the X factor or the creativity or what we're hoping will be Thiago, Ox, Naby. to be the creators, to be the point of the midfield.
Orchestrators, Grizz. We'll call the orchestrators.
No, not even orchestrators. Creative, like goals. Like we're hoping to get shots. Like Gini, Henderson and Fabinho don't shoot.
Mm-hmm.
So we need people who are going to shoot, right? So Naby takes the odd shot. Ox likes to shoot a lot, you know, and Thiago's got a fantastic shot but doesn't use it enough. So we're hoping to utilize them there. I think we need another energetic, durable, box-to-box, high-energy players, and the names that have been linked and the names that I think, you know, are more likely to come are all that type.
Yeah.
So it all bodes well. Hopefully, you know, I mean, within the next 2-3 weeks, we'll get that.
Guys, just a quick one. Fabinho, in the last 3 seasons at Liverpool, has been missing in each season a total of 4 to 5 weeks as well. Just bear that in mind. And Henderson's always been having to step back as DM.
Players will. Most players will. We just have freaks in Salah. Like,
yep.
In reality, we have freaks in Van Dijk and Salah and Trent who don't miss many games, and they've been and Robertson who don't miss many games. And they're the freaks. They're the unusuals. We've also got a crock of a goalkeeper, and I love Alisson, but I've never seen a goalkeeper since Peter Schmeichel miss as many games in a regular season as Alisson does. So that's on an unusual thing. I'm hoping he doesn't pick up any injuries this year, but since his calf exploded on him in Anfield that night when it was cold, right? He picked up a good few injuries. Like, do you know what I mean? And he's missed game time for various different things. So like they're the issues that we need to deal with and be prepared for. So the centre-back thing was a bit of a freak issue, but we all felt, I think every single one of us felt that we were a bit light heading into last season by not replacing Lovren. And if Gini goes and we don't replace Gini, as much as we've got loads of midfielders, I think we'll feel light about capable midfielders, because the engine room of the Klopp methodology is the midfield doesn't do the magic, right? You've got your fullbacks and you've got the magicians up the top end of the pitch, but everything happens because that midfield dogs so goddamn hard and has skill and graft when they dog, because once the dogs are unleashed, then everything else happens in front of them. Because if that midfield can't pull the other team around the place and match them as well physically, and then also be able to play with the grace and the beauty that you want to play creative midfielders with, the lads up front become ineffective. And that's what happened through January and February last year. We were too stretched, and that midfield wasn't able to exist and wasn't able to play the way it should be able to play. And that, to me, is the key to this. And if we get that wrong, we will either have to reshape the way we play.
But I genuinely, going back to the way we play, I genuinely believe if we get the right midfielder, the type that we've spoken, and look, if you believe in God, put a prayer out. If you believe in superstition or whatever, positive thoughts, fingers crossed, all that kind of business, right? If we can get Thiago, Ox, and Naby to remain mostly injury-free, they give us a different game, different factor to the game that you prescribe to our midfield, Phil. You're talking about the dogs of war and the Fabinhos, the Hendersons, the
dimension, Grizz. You're looking for dimension.
Lads, can I cut across just for a quick second, right? Just for a very quick second, right? So,
super chats.
Tom Boland has put a super chat in for Sienna. Thank you very much. Jonathan Davis has put a super chat in for Sienna. Appreciate that as well. And also, we've another one in here from Nay. Where's that one gone? And again, it's for Sienna. One thing I would say, we appreciate that. That is brilliant. But if you want to make a donation to Sienna's campaign, if you could do it through the GoFundMe or through the ticket sales that we're doing, because super chats get ate up by YouTube. So we appreciate all that, but it's a high percentage goes to YouTube on super chat. So it's not all going to Sienna. Look, every penny helps. We appreciate every penny that comes in. But if you are willing, or if you want to start to donate any money, I would suggest we do it through the GoFundMe, just so the more money goes to the appeal as possible. But look, thanks very much for doing that. As I said, there will be proceeds of that will go to Sienna's fund, but for anyone that's going to throw in, if we do it through the GoFundMe, it's probably better. So sorry for cutting across just there, Grizz. I just wanted to say it while people were throwing them chats.
No problem. Yeah, I echo those thoughts as well. Appreciate that. But basically what I was going to say is, I actually think, bold statement, I think we're a central midfielder, a type of central midfielder way of having one of the best mixes of central midfielders around. I genuinely believe that. But it all does depend on the one central midfielder that we bring in. And from what I believe, that's the prototype we need. I think genuinely the multi-skills of that midfield combined, and Phil was talking about combinations of you can't play X, Y, Z. I think it might be different to this time, Phil. And the reason for that is because of the monsters at the back we've got back now. You know, that makes a massive difference. We've got monsters at the back now where we can slightly change it up in midfield if we need to. And I think we've got a fantastic mixture.
You'll see a higher line at the back, which will mean more possession in the middle. So it depends on what he selects. I wouldn't be opposed to seeing a 4-2-3-1 either this season at times, where we have two sitters, Henderson and Fabinho, then you have three with the one up top.
I don't care about formations. I honestly don't, right? Because it's you're made, and like air formation is really two at the back with two fullbacks pushed so far on that one of the centre midfields drops in as a third centre. Like it moved around, and that's modern football. I had more issues with fellas who can't play against aging centre midfield off Real Madrid and just give up the ghost after 10 minutes and dial it in and have to be taken off before half time. That's a mentality issue. That isn't an ability issue. That's a mentality issue. And as much as they're doing well in pre-season, there's no pressure. There's no stress. There's nothing riding those games. They're going out and enjoying themselves, and it's better than doing a training session. And I think, Keith, you mentioned before we talked about patterns that we're seeing in pre-season friendlies and the upcoming friendlies that are coming ahead. The only pre-season friendly that's ever mattered to me since Klopp was here, and something I've noticed in pre-season, is always the last pre-season before the season kicks off. Every game before that is a mix and matching of a team with them trying to get into patterns of play that they're going to deploy across the course of the season. And from that point of view, the games up until now, from what I've tuned in, I haven't tuned into many. I saw I didn't bother the 60-minute games. They were really just glorified training sessions. I watched that Union Berlin game, or whoever the fuck they were playing.
Half a billion.
Yeah, like same thing. Berlin, isn't it? And it was enjoyable. It was enjoyable to watch in terms of looking at how the play was developing. Who did they play before that? Was it Borussia Dortmund or
Stuttgart?
Same thing. Germany, isn't it?
Yeah.
Germany, yeah, they're near. It's that Rhine Road area. It's grand. So one of those lads, and watched that game, and like I know lads were going mentalers over the performance Kate put in, but it was a good positive sign. The key for me is, can he do it for 4 games in a row? Because he's never been available for 3 games in a row. And can he do it when the pressure is on? Because the guy's hidden. He's coward when it comes to the big matches. So it's like that's the big steps that we need out of Casey. We need fellas with big balls. Wijnaldum had the biggest pair of balls we've ever seen at a club in a long time. When the big games came along, he always turned up. He might have had shit games against loads of things, but like the big games came along, he turned up. And if Keita truly wants to grow into the jersey and become the player that he should be there, that's the ones that he needs to do. That's when he needs to turn up and show that he can do the stuff that he was doing in the preseason, which is fantastic. It's fantastic looking. It's fantastic to watch, and it's fantastic to see a player like that. But I want to see him do that against Manchester City, against the United games, in that type of stuff. And that's when it matters, when it truly matters.
Lads, I want to touch on this super chat that Jericho sent in. Thanks very much, Jericho. Would it be nice if Liverpool can get one already made marquee player just once, a top 3 player, or is that too much to ask? No, Virgil van Dijk wasn't the top 3 centre back at the time. I've huge issues with this comment, right?
Yeah.
You
went off Twitter because of this.
Yeah, I did. I jacked in Twitter and all because of this sort of stuff. And look, no disrespect to Jericho, but Thiago was one of the best midfield players in the world, and we got him last summer.
People forget.
Do you know what I mean? Like top 3, you could make a case, in my opinion, that he was the best midfield player in the world. And we got him because Klopp wanted him. Virgil van Dijk wasn't the top 3 centre back. If you could name me 2,
he was brilliant.
If you can name me 3 better than him, do you know what I mean? I'll be interested to hear the list.
Alisson was one of the best keepers in Europe at that point. I forget about what we did to Roma and the destruction, but apart from that game, those 2 games, Keita was one of the most informed midfielders in Germany, Europe. Yeah.
Fabinho was one of the top defensive midfield players in Europe. I mean,
Alisson was one of the best goalkeepers that year. Like he won the Golden Gloves. He won the award for best goalkeeper of the year.
Yeah.
Like he was. Oh no, it drives me mad.
I understand the frustration.
Is Konate not one of the best under 23s defender out there? Surely,
I mean, I understand the frustration in some fans, right? But Liverpool do their business the way they do their business. But to say we don't sign a marquee player when we do sign marquee players when we want it, we just don't sign all the players that the media link us with. And as Phil touched on earlier, Kevin Palmer's comment.
Marquee player, Keith?
Yeah.
What do they mean by marquee player? I mean,
has a tent that was back.
Open question.
He's a massive tent that was back, and he brings it with him and sticks it up in his new gaff that he gets in Liverpool.
No, but do you know what I mean? Like, it's marquee player. What's more important here, people? The right player to make you successful, which is the ultimate aim of a fucking football team, to make your team competitive and win games of football. And we've done that for the last 3 seasons brilliantly. Forget last season. We know what happened last season. We've done that brilliantly. It's all about getting the right player. Yeah. And if it happens to be Mbappe, fair enough. Or if it happens to be a Jared Bowen, fair enough. Who the fuck... How can we just prejudge stuff when on the back of the 3-4 years that we've had in this team of who is it? Avy, remind us. This under the team of Fallows, Hunter, Klopp, Edwards, right?
Yeah,
that's the 4 horsemen.
Kravietz,
Mike Gordon as well.
Yeah,
Mike Gordon. No, when have they let us down?
Linders.
Where have they let us down?
Mike Marsh. Yeah.
Mike Marsh.
Yeah, but just on this as well. Just guys, I get this frustration. I'm feeling this frustration a lot, but are we sleeping on Thiago next season too? A Thiago who's going to have a settled back to, especially in the ilk of Van Dijk, Gomez, Van Dijk, or Konate, a settled midfield. Are we forgetting that this guy, he's had 1 year of experience now. He knows the nitty gritty. He knows how referees work as well in the Premiership now. Things that he could get away with in Germany, he can't get away with here. I think he's going to, if he stays fit and touch what he does, right, a phenomenal season awaits us from Thiago.
I think the true fear here is that after what happened last season and us, even though we finished third, we scrape into the Champions League places. People have lost their bollocks and they can't see us being able to win the league, right? Yeah. The difference is when we go into last season, we look like the most dominant football team in world football, and we're going to basically dominate the game.
It's mad, the short memories.
I know, but they're going to dominate. Now, somewhere in between is where we truly are, which is probably more to the season where we finished second to City with an outrageous point total, right? And it didn't feel like the season we win it because we just won so many games in a row. But the way the season pans out, where we drop points towards the end and lose the odd game here and there, that's still more or less look like the previous season, which doesn't feel like the season where we completely dominate, because you're in that race with City that goes on for so long, and you're counting every single point. So
listen, we're literally this club on the back of this structure, this shit structure, the strict shit recruitment that suddenly everyone's calling it. We were half a centimeter away from winning a Champions League, going unbeaten in a league, and a league title in 2 seasons. Like, that would go down as one of the greatest achievements ever.
And doing it against Manchester City as well.
Doing it, someone, I can't remember now.
If we didn't do it, who was doing it?
There was someone who said, Grizz, there's a team out there who's won 3 out of 4. This team has fucking cost how much? Throw a figure at me, please, Avy. How much that team's cost, this Man City squad to build?
1.4 billion.
1.4 billion. And we're competing with them year in, year out. And yes, they've won the titles, and we've been in them, and we've took them to the edge every single season, bar this one. What do you want? Like, you want the perfect owners, the perfect managers, the perfect fans, the perfect stadium, the perfect everything. Like,
I'll be honest with you, I would be unhappy if we don't sign a midfielder before the window closes.
I would as well. 100%. I want to get that.
I think everyone agrees on the general consensus.
We all agree that it's not about we're happy to go in with what we've got.
No.
I wouldn't be.
No, I think it's a gamble. If the one thing I hope the club learned from last summer was don't gamble. Don't gamble with gaps, right? Because sometimes if it doesn't pay off, it can absolutely destroy your season, right? Sure. We've gambled. We gambled the season before that. We got away with it. We gambled last season. We didn't get away with it. And we saw what happens when you gamble in crucial areas. You can probably gamble around the fringes, fullbacks, wings, even up front a wee bit, right? But you cannot gamble in the engine room and in the spine of the defense. It's not worth gambling on. And I look at now, we've got 3 goalkeepers. I know Grizz loves Adrian, but we've got one of the best goalkeepers in the world. We've arguably got the best backup goalkeeper in the league in Caoimhin Kelleher. And then behind him, we've got a third choice goalkeeper that's more than competent at a Premier League level in Adrian, right? So that's boxed off. Our centre backs are untouchable in terms of a group that we have. Our full backs, I think Tsimikas is actually going to play a big role this season. I'm looking forward to seeing him. I think he looks good, and that gives Robertson the chance. But it also, I think Robertson is capable of playing both sides. I know it hasn't happened, but I think he is capable of playing. But he's intelligent enough. Then I look at Trent with Gomez there. I think Gomez is seen as the fill in for Trent when it needs to be happened, and that allows him to get Konate and VVD on the pitch at the same time, or Matip and whoever he wants to do, right? Then you look up front, you've got Josie, you've got Mane, you've got Salah, and then you've got Firmino / Oxlade-Chamberlain. Because I think Ox is being trained, unless they get money for him, I think they're training him as some type of cover for Firmino. And I think they prefer to see Jota in an alternate to Salah or Mane to allow them to rest those players and rotate those players around. And ultimately, I'm looking at saying that our top end seems to be boxed off as well. And they've got Harvey Elliott to come in. So you've got 6 players for those 3 positions up top. I think Minamino will end out on loan if he's not sold, right? That's my own guess. So it's really just the midfield. And if we can box that off, I think we're as strong as we have been under Jurgen Klopp, assuming the player that comes in can deliver to an 80% of Genie in his 4th season. Because when Genie comes in his 4th season, he wasn't the Genie that left the club. He wasn't the Genie that did what did for Barcelona. But he doesn't need to be that top-end Genie initially. He just needs to be the 80% player, getting to grips with the league, getting to grips with what he has to do, and delivering to a level that allows the other players around him to function and protects the ball for us. Like, that's one of the great things that Wijnaldum was doing. He win the ball back, protect it, and he just slow things on.
Keith, before we move on, we've got 855 smashing people watching this. Can you tell me the pitiful number of likes we've got before I have a rant at the
187?
Is that it?
No,
are they taking the
203 at the moment?
Can you let me know when it builds up? Because then I'll tell the listeners and viewers who we've made a bid for this week.
Just a quick one on the midfield availability. Naby's going to be going to international duty as well. I think before the first game or after the first game with Guinea. Really? That's going to be the biggest test when he comes back. If he comes back injured, it's curtains. Just hope that he comes back like still sort of intact. So yeah, just to keep
why would he?
He's got to represent his country, hasn't he?
Why does he? They've actively ruined him every time he's gone there.
He's not going to say no, is he, Grizz, to go to Guinea? He's going to go to Guinea, isn't he, if they call him up? Come on, what are you talking about now? He's going to want to go on international duty, isn't he?
He won't be in that first 11, so don't worry about it, lads. He can go wherever he wants.
But very true, very true. But no, Phil, you do touch on a good point there. You know, I think we did gamble last season, but I think if we'd have brought in a centre-back last season, he probably would have got injured anyway, so it probably didn't matter who we brought in, to be totally honest. I think, you know, Fabinho as the 4th choice centre-back was a perfectly fine option, playing alongside Van Dijk or Matip or Joe Gomez. The problem was we lost everyone else. Do you know what I mean? So it was a gamble worth taking. It just, the squad got stretched so far, so much that it didn't work out. But you're right, we need bodies into that midfield. We do have cover, I think, all over the place. Klopp has to trust the squad a bit more, I think. You know, if it's a thing that Minamino doesn't move on, and I think he will be moved if we need a non-home ground quote. I think
100%.
He'll be the one. Divock won't go anywhere, and you know, if we needed to do one, I think he's the one that goes. But it is the midfield that has the worries. Grizz, we're up to 277 likes. Are you happy with that? Or?
No, 300. And then we end it.
Would anyone take James Ward-Prowse for 30 million?
Well,
no? Why not? Why are you so dismissive of James Ward-Prowse?
I didn't say anything. I just asked the question.
Phil said no.
Phil. Okay, sorry.
Phil said no before you finished it.
Why are you so dismissive of James Ward-Prowse, Phil?
I just hate English people.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, sorry. For any English people in the chat,
you try your best and fucking build this show up.
I think you've got two super chats, mate.
Yeah, we'll find them. But no, I'll find these super chats.
Evian on. Should we move on to the friendly? That's on Thursday. Or
No, we don't like talking about friendlies and pre-season. Didn't you hear, Phil? We've done amazing. What a fucking amazing show where we were shit scared of talking about pre-season friendlies, and you want to mention Evian right at the end when it's time to go.
we have history with Evian, you know.
Okay, go on.
Yeah, we're big fan of the water.
Last player to play for Evian who represented Liverpool. Grizz, you want to answer this?
Avy, it's water under the bridge, mate. You don't need to think.
It's nice fun. That
Yeah, I know
Grizz, you want
this
to take a guess? Last Liverpool player that went
Evian.
on to Evian from Liverpool.
Went on Christian Poulsen.
Oh,
Damien
God, it was
Plessis.
No, he's got Damien Plessis was not it, Phil, but good shout. But it was actually Keith. Well done. That.
We got Rapstar in the house.
So we've got Rapstar, the super chat. Thank you very much, Rapstar. Strangely, I'm not worried about incomings. I see Shaqiri leaving, and the same with Minamino Origi run down contract. I think. Yeah, look, if Shaqiri leaves, I think we bring one in, and I think that's the way it's probably looking, and it's the way it's being nearly reported that will happen. But thanks very much for the super chat, and we'll get on now in a second. I'll just have another super chat to get here, and this one is from FT79. I hate these bleeding ones that sound like bots. FT78910. Easy when you think about it. With 1990 mirrors.
Myanmar.
Would LFC prefer traditional?
Are they not Malaysian rupees?
Yeah, Myanmar. Yeah, it is.
Oh wow.
There you go, love it. Would LFC prefer a traditional 9 like a Vlahovic or a flexible forward like a Chiesa? And look, I think what we like and what we can guess about what Klopp, because we touched on it earlier about Kevin Palmer. He more or less said journalists don't have a fucking clue, so we don't know what the club are thinking or what the links are correct or whatever. But Avi, would you rather have? We're going over 300 likes, by the way, Grizz.
Do you know what Klopp would like?
What?
He would like a young, the Polish geezer that used to play
Lewandowski.
A young Lewandowski.
Vlahovic is the man then.
Who could play both as the false 9, like Firmino does, and can also be the rootless number 9 to play in front of a 3 as well if you wanted to. The whole thing, it's like I'm telling you, that was his dream centre forward, and you saw what he was able to do with that and what he could put behind him. And I'd say if he had a chance to get another Lewandowski, put him there and have 3 of the boys behind him, then his midfield suddenly changes shape. That it's similar to what he did with Dortmund.
It's very true. And Vlahovic is the option then.
Yeah.
I don't think he suits what Phil said, Keith. I don't think he can play as a false 9. He's an absolute demon of the other type that Phil refers to, and he will develop. I get that side as well. But if you gave me the choice like this person's giving us like a flexible forward like Chiesa or Vlahovic. Now I'm a fan of Vlahovic, but I think
you're the one who recommended him to me and said, "Have you watched this kid?" Like 3 months ago.
No, I said that. No, I agree. I said I'm a fan of Vlahovic. Did you miss that part?
No, but it seems as if you're going to go with Chiesa though.
Well, Chiesa, I was going to come to and say Chiesa for me is after Mbappe the best fit in this Liverpool forward line. Can play wide right, can play wide left, young, energetic. He's an absolute pest like Suarez used to be. He doesn't fucking stop. He's an absolute animal. But Phil always reminds me he's Italian. So he doesn't like Italians.
No, I do like Italians, but Italians can't play in England, right? It's just the thing. Right,
but do you think the modern day Italians? Chiesa's not a modern. He's not a throwback of Italian players. Phil, he's a modern Italian forward. He's got pace. He's quick. He can play on the left, right, centre. He can float around. I think he'd be perfect for the Premiership, to be honest. But I would want Dusan Vlahovic. I'm a big fan of Vlahovic now. Thanks, Grizz, by the way.
The Italians don't like to leave their mammy, so new world Italians, old world Italians, all that sort of stuff. Unless they can bring their man, their granny over with them, they probably won't do it.
Italy's worst performances in the European Championships were in Wembley. Says it all.
There you go.
They went on to win it though. They went on to win it at Wembley too.
Just about.
They were by far the better team.
Just about. So
you've got another super chat, Keith.
I would prefer I think South Americans do really well in England. Right?
Speaking of which.
What a segue. Unless he saw it. I mean, we'll have to educate him who the fuck that is.
He probably thinks he's Italian.
Yeah.
Phil, Lautaro
That's-
Sorry,
Martinez.
Phil. You asked me for that one, Phil.
That's Roberto Martinez's son. He's another spoofer.
I knew it. We'll have to fill him in who he is, but yeah.
I know who
agree with
I
him,
know
though.
who
I agree.
Martinez is.
Lautaro
and-
Martinez will be my dream signing for Liverpool. Just putting it out there for a forward, he'd be the one.
Well, he's supposedly in the Italian press says that he's up for sale. The Inter want to keep
Lukaku.
your man, the Belgian lad,
Lukaku.
Romelu.
Lukaku. Yeah, right. They want to keep him, and they're prepared to sell Martinez. If he's available, that's who Liverpool should go for.
Yeah,
And he's
I
only
agree.
on 80k a week, which is absolutely up our street. If we can give him like 120, 130, absolutely. But I haven't heard anything, but that's a lovely rumor that I'd love to start.
So there's people throwing out the one Italian player that did well in England, Gianfranco Zola. Well,
Yeah.
Zola.
Di Canio done well as well.
Ravanelli did well. Ravanelli.
I'm not having Di Canio. Did nothing in England. Did nothing.
Di Matteo, Roberto.
Nah,
Nothing.
he was brutal.
He was
Poxy.
brilliant.
No,
Salenzi
wasn't a fan.
at Nottingham Forest. Poxy.
Casaraghi done nothing.
Casaraghi.
Vialli done okay.
No, but Casaraghi had that nasty injury. Come on, Keith.
Fiadi did all right. The players
smacked his
that
balls into the pole. Done
Alessandro
well.
Pistoni. Pistoni done well at Everton. Left back.
Leave it out. Materazzi done well as well. Leave it out.
Aquilani did well.
Macaroni.
Carboni.
Macaroni at
Osana
Middlesbrough.
done well.
Macaroni.
The players that do well from Serie A into England are traditionally not the Italian players. You bring players in that have done or have struggled in Italy for whatever reason. Like look at Henry when he comes into Italy, he struggles at Juventus, comes in and blows the Premiership apart.
Yeah.
Bergkamp struggles at Inter Milan, comes in and blows the Premiership apart. You know, they're the players that comes in. Somebody said Jorginho. Jorginho at Chelsea has been pretty up and down at best, right?
And
Like
he's Brazilian, by the way.
Yeah, he's not Italian, so it's he's done a slur. He's done like Diego Costa doing a slur.
Yeah,
as well.
yeah.
So while we're on the type or the sort of the area we go for players, what are you laughing at?
Can I change this one? Is a brilliant one. Sorry. Go on, carry on.
Oh.
Well, no, if it's brilliant.
Yeah,
Massimo.
so Avy did well.
Yeah, there you go.
His only one best game was against us as well in that 3-2
Yeah,
loss.
he was unbelievable against us. That one game.
Carragher's
remember?
own goals as well, yeah.
But lads, and I want especially Keith and Avi's opinion on this because Phil won't have watched him because he didn't watch a second of the Euros. But a player that we've been linked with and we're very, very linked with this week. In fact,
I'll take him. Damn God.
inquiry
I'll take him.
is you fucking jumped in.
We spoke about this on Friday. I would take him. Sorry. I'm gonna go mute. Okay.
This was the whole purpose of the show. Like the people liked the show, and because I was going to break some news, and you've just opened your gob like you always do in the quizzes and everything, and then people think, why do I fucking bully you?
Yeah.
Anyway, you can still give me your opinion on the player, Keith. Michael Damsgaard, of Sampdoria, of where's he from? Denmark.
Denmark. Yeah.
Talk
I think he's brilliant. He's gonna break. Phil is gonna break out in a cold sweat of signing a player off a good international tournament. Fool's gold, I think, is the phrase Phil will use on that one.
The Stone Roses have started playing in the background here.
Tell you, their royalties have shot up, Phil, since you've said this, you know.
Yep.
But no, I think he's a great player. He's a young player. I think he came into an awful situation in that Danish team to be, you know, given the creative mantle maybe of you know, Christian Eriksen, what happened to him. But I think he would be an excellent player. I think he's he's signing a player before he makes it big. And I think that's something that FSG always want to do. Klopp, not FSG, sorry, I'll take that back. It's what Klopp wants to do. Klopp wants to sign the player who's on the cusp. That's why I think the Chiesa one is making sense, and other players that we're linked with, they're good players. Chiesa is ready to take that step up. And I think Damsgaard is a rung below that, ready to build him into the player he wants. So I think he's an excellent player. And the money that was touted wasn't that high.
They're saying 30 million. We've actually made a bid. I know people don't like, you know, believing me when I say we made a bid, but we made a bid in the region of 20 million.
I think 20 to 25 maybe could get it done. He's a bit of a busy bee player as well. He always looks for the ball, and he's always bouncing around in the first sort of 50, 60 minutes. Does need to work on his engine, but yeah, I'm a big fan, and I'm not gonna lie, I didn't watch him pre-Euros. I didn't even know he was at Sampdoria, but no, he's a player that I think can take that sort of mantelpiece from Eriksen and become that new sort of number 10. And we need a Scandinavian as well, like I mentioned on Friday.
Yeah, Phil was talking about
we start
Italian, South
marketing
Americans,
that area.
Yeah, Premier League is quite good with Scandinavians, or Scandinavians are quite good with Premier League.
Yeah,
Oivar Leonardson and all that. Yeah, I agree.
Phil looks like Leonardson, lads. Phil looks like Leonardson.
Yeah. Or Torben Picnic is a better show.
How does he look like Torben Picnic? Torben Picnic was blonde.
When I was a wee bit younger, I was a ringer for Stuart Downing, or Stuart Downing was a ringer for me, and I fucking hate him.
Before we move on to Bill with Carl Ali with another super chat.
This one, ever pull on a rally.
You picked him the worst, didn't you? Yeah, you had him.
Yeah, he was up there.
See, that's the thing. You're scarred with English players because of these ones, but the new breed's all right, Phil. Just come round.
Shall I read this?
No,
go ahead.
He's my mate from the East Coast, so big up to Abubakar Ali. Prayer hands with Sienna. Yep, hopefully we meet the deadline. I would like to take the opportunity to apologise to Grizz about earlier Twitter. I lost the fact that we are all fans, and I'm a big fan of your work. Prayers and 100. There you go, Grizz. He's from the East Coast of America as well, so he's a New York.
Absolutely nothing to apologise for. We all get passionate, emotional. Nothing to apologise, pal.
Can I just say something? Stick your damn skirt up your arse. Don't go near him. He wasn't even a real person before the European Championships. I have no interest. Ben, move along. Gravenberch, that lad now, he's a fella that we should be looking at. And who's the other bloke that we should be looking at? That Jude Bellingham. I'll give you that for an English lad, but he did right. He went off to Germany. If we're talking about bringing in a midfielder to develop, and that's going to be a long-term project to replace Henderson and to solidify that midfield, those two lads will be smashing.
Nobody likes hearing next year, but I truly believe we're putting the works in for next year for Bellingham and Gravenberch. But nobody likes hearing next year, so we skip that.
So is the legacy somehow delayed till next year now?
Yeah, COVID.
Yeah, COVID.
Hey, listen, we're allowed that excuse, so that's fine.
Well, look, we're after getting an hour and a half out of this, lads, and we didn't even.
We didn't mention pre-season once.
We've not even mentioned the Gold Cup yet. The Gold Cup
give a shit.
Doesn't
the Gold
exist.
Cup, yeah,
doesn't exist.
Gold Cup, as Phil said, the Cheltenham's over. Avy, I don't know what you're looking for, but look,
the Irish Gold Cup is run.
There you go. But look, before we finish up, I just want to give a shout out to Sienna, because the show is in aid of Sienna. We're trying to really push the Sienna fund. Any help we get is greatly appreciated. A lot of the lads threw in super chats there tonight. We appreciate it. But as I said, I think it's 30% goes to YouTube with super chat. So Lord, we do appreciate that. You know, if you do it by the GoFundMe is the best way to do it. There's a deadline, not a deadline now, but they have a target. I think it's November, and we're looking to get as much money as we can. So let's go and really put a push on. We're doing the GoFundMe is there on the link of the show for anyone that wants to donate to Sienna's fund. But we're also doing the sellout Anfield. We're looking to get 53,000 tickets sold, €1 each. Buy 1, buy 10, buy 100, buy the Cop, buy the Kenny stand, buy the Anfield Road, buy whatever you want. But if we can sell those tickets, and if you can't buy a ticket, spread the word. Someone else might buy it. It's not about Liverpool. It's not about the Daytrippers. It's about a young girl that needs the help, and we want to give the help, and we're going to push it and push it and push it as much as we can to help this young girl out, because we believe that, you know, every child, you know, deserves to walk through the school gates on their first day, and that's what we want for Sienna. So we're going to really push it. We're going to have a go, and every show you'll get sick of us talking about what we don't care. We're still going to talk about it. You'll get sick of us messaging on Twitter about what we don't care. We're still going to do all that. Just get on and support it, because the quicker you support it, as Leslie says there, follow her on our socials. Get on and follow, you know, Sienna Steps. Get on everywhere and follow her. Yeah. The quicker you all buy these tickets and we get Sienna to a total, the less we talk about it. So you know what I mean? If you want to talk about football, let's all go out and slaughter the tickets for Sienna Steps and get the girl what she needs. That's what we want to do. That's what we're going to keep doing. So anybody that can do it, we appreciate the super chats, but there's other ways that'll be probably better utilized with the money. So look, we appreciate all that, and you know, it's all good. we appreciate all the support. So yeah, any help we can get, we'll keep going. But thanks very much for everyone that helped. So look, lads, we'll wrap it up now. Oh, Phil, have you
No, I was just going to say, I'm running up a mountain towards the end of the month, and hopefully I'll have a t-shirt with all the links and stuff to do it. Like I could lash out a GoFundMe, but I think starting another GoFundMe or starting another thing just starts to confuse things. We'll just use the one link and get the money in to do what's there. And if the legs hold up, I might be doing another one through September as well. So it's a slightly longer one. It's either 28 or 40 kilometer run across all the Wicklow Mountains. So be one of the others. So but as I said, we'll keep the link simple, because as I said, at this stage it's better just to have one link, have the money going through one link than it is to do something else.
Yeah, 100%. Well done, Phil. For a man of your age to do all that, I think it's very good. But I will say, if we're counting on Phil running 6,000 miles to get us over the line, we might need a plan B. But
I nearly died last weekend, so I said.
Yeah. But we love your optimism. We love your optimism. But look, while we're here, Phil, thanks very much for joining us tonight in the Fatback 4. It's been a pleasure having you. It's great to have you on shows. You don't do enough of them, in my opinion. But, as we said, yourself and Boris are fighting it out to get the
populate the world. Yeah. Post-COVID population it is.
He was the Nat Phillips.
Yeah, that's it.
He was
came out of the cold. Yeah,
very unpopular. Everyone thought, who the fuck? But he done absolute admirable job and got us to third when we didn't think we'd have a show tonight without the main men.
Klopp's greatest season was finishing third by bringing in that Phillips, and look.
I said this is going to be one of the best shows in numbers term, and we had nearly 900 watching. I said this, so thank you, Nat Phillips. Allah, and I think Avy was Kabak.
Do the song, Avy. Do the song.
Remotely funny.
The free transfer.
Yeah, there you go. We know what happened to him, don't we? He ended up in the lead.
Well, Gav's back from holidays tomorrow, isn't he? Gav's back tomorrow.
Gav tweeted, "I'm back and firing," and I asked him, "Who are you firing?" I think we know.
B45 tomorrow, mate. Don't worry.
Yeah, our answer. Boom, boom, boom. But now, Avy, it's always a pleasure to have you on here. Thank you very much for stepping in.
Likewise, brother. Likewise, and great to be on the same screen as Phil.
Yeah, and look, as the new season comes, we'll plug it now. Avy is going to have a new show. Avy's going to have a new show on a Friday night where he'll be talking all sports, and I know Phil will end up rocking up on that.
This week is starting.
It's this Friday. This Friday, all systems go. Gavin, me, and Connor Magokachi, who will be joining us. We're just getting the last bits and pieces ready. Might have a special guest this Friday, as soon as this Friday. So stay tuned.
Good stuff.
And it's not Grizz. The special guest is not Grizz, please, guys.
I know when the NFL season comes on,
definitely
Phil
on
will be all over that.
Phil, I'm gonna
Hard Knocks is on, and I think we'll have to have a Hard Knocks special, Avy, when it gets on the screen. That's the real show. That's the proper show. That's the real show to be watching.
Yeah, pints, beers, whiskies, chasers, whatever. Yeah, I'm all for it.
You name it. And Grizz, it was good tonight, wasn't it? A couple of subs into the Fatback 4.
We thought to ourselves, Fatback 4, we're going to need some stalwarts in there. But as I said, thank you to them too. We managed to get a decent show. I'd say more than decent show in there.
Good, yeah.
Yeah, nice one.
But we're biased like that, you know what I mean? But hell never. Look, thanks to everyone for coming in and joining us tonight for a chat. It's a bit of crack. The lads will be back on the forum tomorrow, and it's going to be Andy, Peter, Gav, and Davo. Shane will be on tomorrow, and it looks like it's going to be a good show. I've seen some of the topics that the lads have thrown in, and it will be an interesting forum. Go and support the lads when that comes on, and there will be more shows during the week. There'll be Carnage and Midweek Fix and all Avy's new shows. So it's going to be a busy week on the Daytrippers. So look, if you haven't done it already, subscribe, hit the like button, all that good stuff, and come and join the shows with us. But we'll leave you there. I've been your host, Keith. This has been the Fatback 4. Good night.